and pass things on to our special guest host. So hello, everybody. My name is Rachel Fowley-Neufeld. I coordinate events for McNally Robinson in Saskatoon. I am just so pleased to welcome you all here tonight. This event is live streaming from Treaty 6 territory, the traditional lands of the Cree, Saulteaux, Dene, Dakota, Lakota, Nakota, and Métis nations. Thank you so much for joining us tonight for a virtual evening with Louise B, also known as Skydancer. We are here tonight to celebrate the launch of Awâsis, Kinky and Dishevelled, released by Brick Books. We're also celebrating new editions of Blue Marrow by Kegedonce Press and Burning in This Midnight Dream, which is forthcoming from Brick Books. So I'm so happy that you're all here with us tonight to celebrate Louise's work. I'd like to thank Brick Books and Kegedonce Press for working with us to make tonight's event what it is. So before I introduce our hosts for the evening, I'd like to briefly mention that tonight's event features auto Zoom captions. If you'd prefer not to see the captions, you can click on the small arrow next to the live transcript button on the bottom of your screen and click hide subtitle. So at this point, I'd like to welcome our hosts for the evening, Candace Wasacase-Lafferty. So thank you so much for joining us tonight. She'll be guiding us through the evening and introducing some really special guests. Candace Wasacase-Lafferty is the Senior Director of Indigenous Engagement at the University of Saskatchewan, a citizen of Kegedonce First Nation. Candace began working on campus in 2001 and is a proud alumna of the College of Arts and Science. Since then, she's worked in various roles that promote Indigenous values and culture within the university and led in the realization of the Gordon Oaks Red Bear Student Center. Candace is a member of the Board of Directors for Wanuskewin Heritage Park and the Saskatoon Regional Economic Development Board. And she describes Louise as her spiritual mentor and has been deeply moved by her generosity to others, in particular, the love that she shows to students at the Gordon Oaks Red Bear Student Center. So at this point, I'd like to welcome Candace. Welcome, Candace. Thanks for being here.
Thank you very much, Rachel, and thank you to McNally Robinson for hosting us this evening. I happen to be here in person tonight. I haven't been at McNally's for some time. I forgot how magical and wonderful it is to be surrounded by books and to be surrounded by amazing authors. I'm also here just off the way and socially distanced apart from me is our guest tonight, Louise Halfe, along with her husband, Peter. And I promise you we're going to have a wonderful evening. Thank you, Rachel. Again, thank you. My name is Candace. I'm honored to serve as your MC. Tonight is a gathering of friends and admirers of Louise. You will hear from people who are distinguished cultural leaders, thinkers, and scholars, all here to recognize and share their thoughts on the amazing body of work and show their respect to Louise. First up, I would like to introduce President of the University of Saskatchewan, Peter Stoicheff. I know him to be a great friend of Louise's and a strong supporter of her work. As a musician, an English professor, a dean, and now a leader of the University of Saskatchewan, Peter deeply values the contribution of the arts and Louise's role as a writer, elder, and mentor. Welcome, Peter.
Well, thanks, Candace, for that really generous introduction. And hi, everybody. And I know Maria's there. Hi, Maria. Ron Marken, I know. Thanks. Great to see you, Ron. And Jean and Eric, who are the Cree translators of this great book. Great to know that you're there, too. My wife, Catherine, and I are really honored to know Louise through her work as a poet and as an elder in Saskatchewan, as an Indigenous advisor, as you heard, to students at the University of Saskatchewan at the Gordon Oaks Red Bear Student Center, as a great friend who always reaches out, no matter how I had to say it, kinky or dishevelled. Thanks, Louise. This launch is a chance for everybody to say hi and to say how we love your work, how we love you, how we love hearing you read. Louise has, and this is by my count, but I'm an English prof, not a mathematician, 6 published books of poetry, beginning almost 30 years ago with the 1994 Bare Bones and Feathers. We got that from Coteau Books. 4, including it, are in the process of being republished, 2 of them that we'll hear about tonight and redistributed. She has contributed to dozens of poetry anthologies, has published numerous essays, and exactly 2 decades ago became the first Indigenous poet to appear in an anthology of Canadian poetry. She's been invited to give readings in many countries around the world and has been recognized by many universities for her writing, including ours. We conferred an honorary degree upon Louise in 2019 at a jam-packed convocation ceremony. There are a good 2,000 people there, and that's the highest honor that the University of Saskatchewan can bestow on anybody. On the basis of her considerable body of work, of course, Louise was named as Saskatchewan's Poet Laureate from 2005 to 2006, and she was named very recently as Canada's 9th Poet Laureate, and I can't begin to express here how proud everyone, including everybody at this event, is of that fact. Louise, congratulations. The country has a writer in you, Louise, who's known for her community contributions as much as for her poetry and essays. I have the privilege of introducing her at many events and have had for many years at the University of Saskatchewan and elsewhere in the region, where she gives opening remarks on ceremonial occasions, where she speaks to students and community members, where she offers advice to students and to senior leaders, and where she supports spiritual and health-related initiatives for Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples. And at each of these, I have to remind audiences that although they might know her as an elder and as a teacher and as a knowledge keeper, she's also an admired poet who has given voice to so much and so many. And I have to remind others that although they know her as a wonderful poet, she's also an elder and a teacher and a precious advisor to so many fortunate students. And those 2 spheres of activity are closely related, for her poetry speaks to the deepest features of her community work: empathy for the human spirit, suffering, healing, and collective wisdom. Congratulations, Louise, from Catherine and me on this virtual launch of Kinky and Dishevelled, and on the new editions of Blue Marrow and Burning in the Midnight Dream. And thanks very much, Candace, for inviting me to say a few words this evening.
Virtual clap. Everybody in the world is clapping. It's hard to play off a screen, so thank you so much, Peter. Your sincere voice has meant so much to me, so much to Louise, and in honor of her great work. And that's why we're here tonight. We're here to talk about awâsis, kinky and dishevelled. And also, if you haven't picked this one up yet either, I highly recommend. It is just, these are amazing books. I can't put this one down. It's full of joy, laughter. It teaches you so much about our language and where she comes from, and the stories. It really defines how I feel about Indigenous humor. And if you've experienced that, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't experienced that, pick up this book. I want to thank the audience for being with us tonight. I know Louise has friends here tonight from Ireland, from Mexico, from Italy, from Malaysia, and from England as well. So welcome. So yes, we are on Treaty 6 territory tonight, but I want to honor the land of wherever you are standing tonight. So thank you so much for being here. It's been an amazing journey to get here. I want to thank Rachel. I want to thank Darla Isaac, who has, you probably were inundated by invitations from her. She has worked so hard to help Louise put this on tonight for us. So thank you, Darla, from my heart. We have another wonderful speaker for you. This is a man who's been closely associated, he's been with the university for many years, now retired, a professor emeritus, Ron Marken, from the Department of English. I did write something about Ron, so please let me read that. And I'm so glad I could just read it to you and he's not sitting here with a red pen critiquing my writing, because that would be terrifying for someone like me. Ron is a master of words. He loves the language. He inspires great thinking, and he taught so many people, including myself, when I first started at the university, the importance of the written word. So thank you for being here tonight. Ron Marken is the editor of awâsis, Kinky and Dishevelled. And we're going to hear from him tonight on his feelings towards that book, the process that he undertook, his relationship with Louise. We're going to turn the floor over to him in just a moment. But I wanted to let you know that Ron is a highly celebrated teacher, writer, and poet. I have come to understand that Ron has been hugely influential in Louise's writing career. Ron, can you share with us your work with Louise and provide your commentary on this latest work? Over to you, Ron.
Thank you, Candace. I'm coming to you from Victoria. It's not even snowing here, so it was an interesting move to leave Saskatchewan. I miss it a lot, but I look out at the ocean every morning through the dining room window, and then I kind of forget. Somebody asked me what it was like being a mentor to Louise Halfe. And all I can say is that I couldn't possibly call myself a mentor to this woman. She was born with the gifts that you've seen in her work. Instead, what she has done is honored me with her trust and her friendship in letting me call myself an editor to this book. Decades ago, I can't remember how many years it is ago, Louise, when you were a student of mine in first year English. It was a televised class that spread all over the province. And there was one lone voice out in Meadow Lake that would speak up and speak very forcefully again and again. In class discussions, I found that Louise's literary perceptions were always original and sharp. There are a couple of times I remember where she corrected me entirely because I had altogether misread the final chapter of one of my favorite books. And not only that the author of that book was dead wrong in the way that he presented the characters in the book. And that was startling, and it changed my whole view of The Inheritors by William Golding. The other thing about her is that the language that I noticed in her essays when she was a freshman, I'd never even seen her face to face. All I had were pieces of paper and the voice over the loudspeaker. The turns of phrase in her essays were crystal clear and and unpretentious, and the language was always constantly and consistently vivid. And then I don't know why, but out of the blue one day, Louise sent me 2 or 3 of her poems. I was startled by their force. It was tangible. It was the kind of poetry that if you ran your fingers over the page, your fingers, you might even be scratched. That's how strong it was. When I saw those poems, I made a few comments and maybe grammatical corrections or spelling. And then she sent me some more. And eventually I realized that I was out of my depth. And so I showed her work to Patrick Lane, who happened to be writer in residence at the University of Saskatchewan that year. And it wasn't long under Patrick's care that a full manuscript arrived at Coteau Books, and her first book, Bare Bones and Feathers, was born. And the afterword of Bare Bones and Feathers, one of the last statements in that book, Louise made a bold declaration, and it's also, I like to include this because it's also a demonstration of a proof of what I said, that her handling of language is clear and sometimes even dangerous. So this is what she said: I became the predator on the scent, the master, the slave, the beholder and the beheld, the voice and the song. I was the dark, the light, in a sinew of wolf songs, clear as morning air. When was the last time you read a poem with the word sinew in it? It characterizes all of her work. Her books kept coming, though, one after the other. Each of her poems in those books, and Peter has already named them, I won't do that again, but each of the poems in those books is like a tightly constructed hand grenade containing some revelations, some of them raw, some of them ghostly, some of them hilarious. And they're reflective of the kind of complicated and difficult life that Louise has survived. That life dragged her into places that beggar description. And a few times after those books started coming out, my wise wife, Patricia, would propose perhaps a change of emphasis. She would say, "You have a wonderful sense of humor, Louise. Maybe you would enjoy writing more comic poems like you did in Der Poop." But all of a sudden, 2 years ago, Louise invited and honored me to act as editor for Awâsis, Kinky and Dishevelled, although it didn't have that name yet. Just some books about awâsis, a person or a creature or an idea. It could have been a tree. I didn't know anything about awâsis. But awâsis had emerged in her imagination from dreams and from conversations with elders, sweat lodges, meditations, walks in the forest, music, other people's poems. And deep in the Indigenous consciousness, there is this trickster character. That character exists in almost every cultural mythology in the world. They have their own. They have a Rumpelstiltskin or a Loki or a Pan or a Puck. And awâsis is one such creature. Now, I was editor, and I must tell you right now, I made no contributions to the content of this book. I made no contribution to the sequence or the purpose. In fact, at first, I didn't even really know what was going on. All I could do was maybe suggest a few outside readings here and there. Louise and I have exchanged book ideas for years. Then I'd fiddle with the line length maybe, or suggest some alternative words now and then, maybe change the punctuation or the spelling. A couple of times I went so far as suggesting deleting a stanza. But to do more than that would have been absolute sheer audacity, because I had no right to meddle with the substance of these stories. I wanted to follow the rule of do no harm. And Louise and I then did a lot of proofreading, and this took, I think, the better part of 2 years. We did a lot of proofreading and phoning back and forth and proofreading and emailing and then more proofreading. Then Brick Books took it over and we did more proofreading. And at the same time, the poems kept coming. They were flowing, as it were, out of some kind of waterfall of excitement. I even received phone calls in the middle of the night. I remember one, it was about 2:30 in the morning, and I picked up the phone and mumbled, hello, and the voice said, "What do you think of this one?" And she read me a whole poem into my barely awakened skull. And this happened again and again. And I remember, I'll close this off now because I'm very fond of one of the characters in her book. About halfway through, awâsis started hanging out with another guy or another character called Little White Man. And I identify with him. Whenever I read this book, I think, yeah, I'm a little white man. I kind of don't know what's going on, but I do. And I love being awâsis friend. I myself am a kind of amiable and harmless friend. And I have to tell you, Louise, the word honor has been used many times. I'd like to quadruple that and say it's been an honor knowing you. And you just put on the cake, you put the icing by making me call myself editor of this book. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ron. That was beautiful. We've had lots of conversations. One moment. There we go. We've had lots of conversations on who Little White Man might be. So thank you for claiming that. There may be others. Unfortunately, due to some technical glitches tonight, Maria Campbell has not been able to join us. But she's really critical to this book. She was kind enough to write the introduction. And I'm going to take a brave leap here, and I'm going to read to you Maria's words.
Good.
For Louise. Louise, I dreamed you were in the middle of a busy road, holding a wee small bag. Inside, it looked like someone was dancing hard. You had trouble holding it. What is happening? I thought. Coming closer. I heard music, laughter. Then I started to dance too. Step dance, round dance, slow at first, painfully. I began to laugh, and I laughed, and I laughed till my belly hurt. Step dancing, round dancing, until I fell out of bed. OMG, Louise, I haven't laughed like this in so many years. Such a power, Louise. I have never laughed so hard and all by myself. You are a healing storyteller, wandering in from the old chaos long ago. This is all about indigenizing and reconciliation amongst ourselves. It is kind of funny, shake up, poking, smacking, and farting we all need while laughing our guts out. And it's beautiful, gentle, and loving. Maria Campbell. Thank you for contributing to this very special book, Maria. I'm so sorry you weren't unable to connect with us tonight, and we just find your words a blessing. Thank you. Now it's my absolute pleasure and privilege to be able to introduce Louise to you tonight. Louise Bernice Halfe-Skydancer was raised in Saddle Lake Reserve and attended Blue Quills Residential School. She holds a Bachelor of Social Work from the University of Regina and further complemented to her formal education with 2 years of training at the St. Albert's Nietzsche Institute. Louise serves on many committees throughout Canada and provides services with OPIC, an elder circle that works with apprehended children and their families. In 2005, Peter did mention this, but I'm going to say it again. She was our Poet Laureate for Saskatchewan, and she is widely recognized for weaving the Cree language and teachings into all her works. Her books, and there are many, Bare Bones and Feathers, Blue Marrow, The Crooked Good, Burning in the Midnight Dream, have all received numerous accolades and awards. And in 2008, she released Soketita, to have courage, to be brave, to be strong, a collection of poems to inspire healing. On February 3rd, 2021, the Canadian Speaker of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Commons announced the appointment of Louise Bernice Halfe-Skydancer as our 9th Parliamentary Poet Laureate. Tonight, we're here to celebrate Louise's latest work, Awâsis, Kinky, and Dishevelled, as well as the release of her new editions of Blue Marrow and Burning in the Midnight Dream. We're going to hear a reading from her coming now, and it's just with deep honor I present to you Louise Halfe, my friend.
Kinaskum tnawa gakyo, ego minanukum mamoitawinan, gakyo, nuagu maganak pawite omaski. For all your support I have received through my writing career. I want to thank each and every one of you for attending tonight. Such kind words that I've heard tonight. And I have an itinerary of thank yous that I wanted to say. And of course, my nature is to cry, and I have to hold it back, I promise. In one of my poems, you will see a character that says, I won't swear, you'll find it when she's reading at the podium. I particularly want to highlight the following who believed in Blue Marrow and the dance of awâsis. They are as follows: Kegedonce Press for the publication of Blue Marrow and the Artist, and the future publication of The Crooked Good. I also want to thank Brick Books for awâsis, Kinky, and Dishevelled, the republication of Bare Bones and Feathers, and the rebirth of Burning in This Midnight Dream. They were extremely helpful and respectful in their editorial suggestions. Both Kegedonce and Brick Books worked very hard with me. Eric Woldengray and Gino Okamasis provided me with the Cree translations and the Cree spelling throughout all of my writing career, and I deeply appreciate their friendship and their hard work. Professor Ron Marken, my editor, lifelong friend and mentor, the second person to lay eyes on this rascal, to his wife Patty, who encouraged me to search out my alter ego. Maria Campbell, a lifelong friend and supporter of all my work throughout these many years. Her response to this text is priceless. Darla, whom you've heard from, she did all of my email, did all my invitations. She's so dedicated. I couldn't recommend anybody more higher than Darla to carry out the work that I demanded from her. Thank you so much, Darla. To McNally and staff, who helped coordinate the Zoom activity, all of which you are part of tonight. Many thanks. To Candace, my dear friend, my little sister, who has been tonight's moderator. She is a fantastic friend who I deeply value and trust. To Peter, Stoicheff, and Catherine, thank you for your continued support and faith in my work, and for your friendship, and for enhancing everything that you say about me. I really appreciate it. I was going to start crying when both you and Ron talking. Thank you so much. I thank friends from all over this planet who witnessed all the transitions in my writing career. You're from all over the place, from Malaysia, Australia, to Ireland, Scotland, England, to all across Canada. You are here tonight, and I'm really appreciative of it. And to the contributors, of their funny stories, it's like you've told on yourself with glee, because I didn't write all of these stories by myself. Some of them were given to me, and I developed the character to speak and address these stories. We need this laughter during this time when our hearts are exhausted from this COVID visitor. We miss family and friends and think of all those whose lives are at stake at this moment, and all the professional people who are doing their utmost to help all of us. I'm deeply grateful. I want to say special thank you to my family and relatives on the reservation of my home reserve in Saddle Lake, and especially my precious children, Asni, his partner Tricia, my grandsons Josiah Gisik, Alistair Aski, to Miyasu, and to my grandson Mio Gisika, whose picture you will find in the front of awâsis and his very first drawing. Your love and your support nurtures my spirit. And finally, to my heartthrob of 47 years, Peter, your extra eyes and analytic thoughts are so welcome, though they initially drive me crazy. I simply could not do without your observations, Gisagitin. And here is the long-awaited arrival of Blue Marrow and then awâsis. Hi. And of course, and naturally, I'd be happy to address any questions if you have any when we're all done this reading. Blue Marrow. I actually was impressed with myself with this text. I couldn't believe I was the author. I thought, who wrote that book? Not me. So I really thank the spirits who work through me and who give me voice to address all of these stories. And so Blue Marrow. I had written these stories out for you. So here it goes. Columbus wrote, "My wound has opened again. His bones at the Cathedral of San Domingo moved 4 times, different burial grounds. In the last move, his ashes spill and are trampled. Possession took me last night. I slept with a bone, the jawbone of elk lined with pearly teeth. I bathed her in sweetgrass, laid her under my pillow. Wind swept through me. This path has chosen me. This chosen walk is a blizzard whiteout. My creeing alone in this heavy arm of snow. I hang on to this bone dressed in satin, wade in red berry lakes. I am married to her garden of carrots and sweet corn heads. I lay her skull, broken jaws, face them to the east. When Nukum's granddaughter slept on top of graves, I thought she was crazy. All night I danced above her head. She dragged a string of skulls, heavy in torrent rains, creeing loud into my night. I sleep with rocks too. I couldn't say this before. Who could I say it to except Nukum's granddaughter? The rocks fill me. Their stories, slate and dreams, heavy in my stomach, move like thick clouds blown by my labored breathing. I cannot catch them. I don't think to ask them to slow down. I sleep with petrified wood too, frozen snails, snake with amber eyes, crystallized tails. Soon the black robes will burn me, stake me to their cross. I won't have to live in White House much longer. Benitatsweg nukumak, benanapatsihinan, kawagotel ni punenan, Benitatsweg nukumak, benanapatsihinan, esugepay kimaskikim, kawinanapatsiwea, Benitatsweg nukumak, Demagam sawam nan, Benitatsweg nukumak, climb down, my grandmothers, come heal us. The thick fog, the fog has lifted, the ice shattered. The crossing of the roads is where we wait. Benitatsweg nukumak, climb down, my grandmothers, Bananabatsihinan, come heal us. Your medicine so power is sugepe kimaskikim, Gawinanabatsigoya, that which will heal us. Benitatsweg nukumak, Demagam nan, sawam nan, pity us, bless us. Bless me, Father, I pierced my flesh, danced with the sun, bathed my face in blood. I didn't mean to. Forgive me, Father. I ask for absolution. I promise to say my rosary and serve my time. I promise to keep my hands to myself and swallow my tongue. Amen. We gathered in a darkened room, bodies pressed leg to leg. Our breath, mint and garlic, sage and sweetgrass woven into my burlap gown. We held hands, my love and I. On each side, my mother and father sat. Blankets, tea, sugar, flour, gunpowder, tobacco, ribbon, blueberry cloth, in the dark they came. I bring to you these voices I will not name, voices filled with bird calls, snorting buffalo, kicking bears, mountain goats. I do not recognize who speaks. Skin unfolds, sag after sag, words squeeze through her blistered tongue, lick till my heart stings, my eyes swell. Lightning flighted, scorched our flesh. They tore out our tongues. When we spoke, my love and I, darkness swelled. Thunder became our footsteps, this ceremonial dance of my dead. We were wedded that night. The night has no shadow, her veil always open, always an open mouth. Listen to the bones. I'm going to leave it at that, and that was from Blue Marrow. Hi. I'm going to transition to awâsis, kinky, and dishevelled, And I want to thank Sherry. She did a superb job of capturing the character in this book. Just beautiful, in fact. I just love her. And my friend Kim was the photographer. He's probably watching tonight, but I was also impressed with how he captured my craziness and my kinky hair. And my little grandson, who appears in this book, the little imp. He says, who called me an imp? Anyway, he's 4 years old and he texts me, and I try to read his text, and they show up like FFF, GGG, KKK, and I pretend I understand. Anyway, here's awâsis. Awâsis is a character that I made up, and awâsis, a lot of people perceive the word to mean a child, and that's one translation. The other translation, provided by two of my elders, Jeff Wastikut and Maria Campbell, both told me that awâsis means we are being loaned a spirit. I hope I've got these. Oh, okay. One in 1,000. There was nothing tidy about awâsis. Nobody could call her a control freak. She'd leave her clothes, furs, and feathers scattered here, there, and everywhere. She'd lazily pick something off the ground and wear whatever she decided to be that day. It wasn't an uncommon accident for awâsis to wear these inside out, but she was never embarrassed. She'd happily walk down the street, pantyhose falling to her ankles. She'd just kick them off, wear her panties as a toque with leg holes for perked ears. She fell off a bicycle head first over a chain link fence while flirting with a passerby, shot up, dusted off, and waved at her hot pursuit. Another time, while texting, she smashed her face against a pillar and excused herself. It was just another one of those days. She forgot the toilet paper and dragged a long white tail among the crowd, watching a juggler eat fireballs. Those around her stepped aside as she elbowed her way to get a closer view. At the most sacred pipe ceremony, she stuck the stem into her ear and blew smoke rings through her mouth. Awâsis, I just never know what mischief you are up to. I never know whether to laugh or to cringe. You are a maverick. Secretly, I'm in love with you. The Savior. Awâsis and Brave Rock were saddle buddies. They went long distances across salt water and many continents. They were rubberneckers who watched the lions mate, landed where the one braids burned their incense to their gods. The sun rose joyfully from awâsis and Brave Rock, their hearts open to noonday night. Awâsis' scrawny arms hid her strength, but Brave Rock was the one who took charge, arguing with the cab drivers who tried to bully their way into their wallets. Once they found a tiny awâsis in a bathroom at a Belizean bed and breakfast. They admired the iridescent green and promptly forgot about it. At bedtime, Brave Rock was pulling down her sheets and awâsis ran up the side of the bed. Brave Rock shrieked the plaster off the walls. I'm sorry, I lost my page. That was bad timing, Louise. And it did.
McNally Robertson Booksellers and the Prairie Restaurant will be closing in 15 minutes. Are you for any final purchases to a cashier?
Oh dear, they're telling us to get lost.
Don't worry, Louise. They're not going to throw us out. We'll be good.
Anyway, you'll just have to find this poem. I'm terribly sorry. I thought I was super organized. Anyway, here's dress up. Awâsis often laughed at how a woman wiggled her lips her hips to adjust her muffin top as they were talking. Awâsis girlfriends often wore spandex and girdles to look like Victoria's Secret. She wasn't too far behind, sucking in belly fat to hold Windy Boy captive. She was peeved that pot-belly men could float over their pants while she grunted and sweated on the treadmills. Sweat rock. Awâsis went rock picking in the gravel pit. He dipped, he slipped, and slid down the backbones of the grandmothers. Scrapes zigzagged down his backside. The hard stone bruised him between his legs. A football grew inside his pants. He lay there. Jesus, Joseph, and Mary's, he muttered. It grew in the wrong place. Awâsis returned home and gingerly changed into his second-hand pants. He entered a coffee shop, sat with parted legs, unaware that the crotch was whipped. Awâsis didn't wear underpants. There he perched, waving his majuksis at the gawking strangers peering in their attention. Majuksis actually means penis, but the actual meaning is little gut. Awâsis, always falling in. Awâsis carried 100 pounds across mud, marsh, hills to the other side of the portage. After unloading, sweating, and panting, she bent to splash water on her face and fell in head first. She stood up laughing, looked around to see if her companions were watching. Later, squatting on a wet slanted rock, washing dishes, she slowly slid into the lake. On the final portage, when she and Little White Man set the canoe down, grunting, she toppled in. In a flat voice, Little White Man told her, "Those stunts are hard on the canoe." From then on, at all the lakes and rivers, her other traveling companions hung onto her panhooks. Camping. Awâsis and Little White Man went camping on Iskungan. Little White Man had invested in hard plastic pipes, tent poles to hold up their canvas tent. He also installed a wood stove. Awâsis thought she'd make a fire, stoked the stove, and left. Big city woman followed Awâsis to the tent to check out the fire. She opened the flaps and gasped, "Holy smokes, Awâsis, look!" and fell out of the door cackling. Awâsis peered in. The rigid pole's spine was caved in, the canvas sagging almost to the stove, and the door pole was bent at the hips. When they told the old man, he drawled, "It's good to be sleeping with a white man." And I'm going to conclude because we need a Q&A with two others. And this is what a friend would say to me if I was crying at the podium. It's called enlightenment. Here comes falls down, thunder crowd following. Get over it, Awâsis thought. He wasn't known to feel sorry for others. When a friend of his was crying during her reading at the podium, he yelled, "Oh, for fuck's sakes." Falls down dipped her chest so Awâsis could get a two-eyed view of her man-traps. She knew she could strike with an axe and shoot arrows into the heart. The lush and rolling hills were a distraction from the rolling thunder that followed Falls Down. Falls Down asked Awâsis to plaster a bare, greased birch parchment to her chest and remove the dark clouds that dwelled in the shadow walls of her lodge. Falls Down wasn't pleased that Turd accompanied her wayward travels. She wanted to visit with the big heavens of her soul. Awâsis uprooted a tree, unrolled the mud and roots as if it were a scroll. Grease coated the parchment, wrapped the ailing falls down with a flannel bed sheet, spooned owl broth into her mouth. Awâsis unbraided a cobweb of tiny bones, bunch grass, and bitter root herbs, and falls down had swallowed. He blew his wind into falls down's eyes, into her nostrils and throat. Wind brought the crocuses, crickets, maple buds, and saplings, birthed them into being. As falls down slurped, limbs loosened, laughter rumbled up and released the clenched darkness and gave falls down hope. Okay. Tenting. Awâsis snuggled with little white man in the darkness of their tent. She was horny, so she laddered her emiguan, her drinking spoon. Little white man had a sniff and asked why the oil had a funny smell. When Awâsis brought it up to her nose, she discovered it was clear cedar shampoo. Little white man laughed and laughed, said he would have come up blowing bubbles. And that is it. Thank you so much for being there for me tonight. I so appreciate it. Thank you for all of your support. Love you all over the country. This is great. What a great night. And tonight was my 68th birthday. Is it my 68? I think I'm 68. Oh, look at that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Hi.
That's amazing. Thank you, Louise. There is a question that came in on the Q&A that I'll read to you, and I hope you can hear me. We're not that far apart. So this is coming in from Anais LaBelle, Métis, 10 years old from Treaty 6. Says that he's really excited to see Louise tonight. He misses her a lot and wants to know what inspires her to write these books. From Catherine LaBelle, on behalf of Anais. I hope I'm saying that right.
What inspires me, life does. I take great joy in life, even when I'm down and out, and I record those feelings because they're so important to me. They're part of my growth, and I'm inspired by other people. Their lives mean a lot to me. I'm interested in people's lives. I'm nosy. I like to explore. I love to research. I want to know stuff. Like, I'm aging now and I'm thinking to myself, I want to ask those old people, what's it like really to get old? Like, what are you doing to prepare yourself for your ultimate end? What do you think your ultimate end is? All of that stuff. It's just, I spend a lot of time thinking, and then I record. It's just my nature, and I pay attention to dreams. Like the other night, I had a dream that a big bear came to visit me, and I kept poking it in the nose, and I thought, what does he want from me? So I record those dreams too, and I hope that you will too, that you will write in your book. Thank you, Eliza. I love you.
Excellent. Hold on. That's wonderful advice. I'm going to just keep the line open for another moment. If there
Booksellers and the Prairie Restaurant will be closing in 5 minutes.
They keep telling us that the store is closing. Geez, Louise, maybe you and I should go to Walmart after this.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep, is there any other questions? I'll keep an eye on the chat, and we have her for a few more minutes before we say goodnight. Okay, there's another one here. Oh, no, same question. Well, Louise, I have a question for you. So you say your ideas come from your dreams. How much of your stories are about the people you know, and would people recognize themselves in your book?
Yes, sometimes people think they recognize themselves in my work, and because we all have common experiences, maybe expressed in a different way, and we, like COVID, for example, is doing a real spiral of emotions and thoughts and feelings. And when we start sharing them, we find a lot of commonalities on where we're at. We're all re-examining it somehow. And then, like 10 years from now, we can start thinking about that common thread. Like on my home reserve, people think they owe one story, for example. Well, it affects the whole reserve. The death of one affects us all. Residential school was a shared experience, but we shared it in different ways. Nonetheless, it left its impact, for example. So, yeah, thank you for asking that, Candace.
You're welcome, Louise. I just know that there's lots of people in the chat and a lot of participants here tonight. I see people that I grew up with. I say hello to John Lash and to Andrea and people who've been writing in comments. Your family has been posting things in the chat tonight. We've just enjoyed reading all of these things. I want to say thank you to Rod Marken. I want to say thank you to Peter Stoicheff for offering words, offer blessings to Maria Campbell, wherever you may be this evening. I hope you're safe and warm. Thank you to Rachel. And Rachel's going to come in and say a few words, but I just want to say as an honor for Louise to have asked me to do this for you tonight. And I hope I'm around for the next book and the one after that and the one after that. Thank you. And I'll turn it over to our host, Rachel from McNally's.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for attending tonight. Again, I was just trying to flag Candace down to let her know that we had a few more questions come in. So if it's okay, if you're okay answering a couple more, Louise, I'll hand it back because
Sure.
Everyone waits till the last minute and then they all flood the question box at once.
Got it. Okay. So from Susan Lieberman, she wants to know what you're working on next.
I have, I think, 2, if not 3 manuscripts in the works that are old, that I want to go back and investigate. And I also have a collection of essays, conference presentations, but I want to explore more of awâsis, her antics or his antics, because she's, we don't have pronouns in Cree. We don't have a he or a she. We just are is. We are beings. And I want to explore more of other people's stories and how they handle their embarrassments. For me, they're just totally delightful. I remember one time, for example, of being at a dance, a public dance. And I had a really nice skirt on, and my husband and I were standing at the back. Unbeknownst to us, there were other people standing behind us. And I'd gone to the bathroom. And when I came back, I was standing there enjoying the dance, I got this tap on my shoulder, and she whispered very quietly to me, "Your skirt is tucked into your panties." I just killed myself laughing. I thought, what's to be embarrassed of? That is so funny. So there you go. I love those stories where we could just laugh at ourselves. I'm not easily embarrassed. So there you go.
Oh, well, I absolutely love this next question. It's a very important question. It comes from Josiah Butt. He says, "Do you know how much I love you, Coco?"
Oh.
Now she's going to cry. I'm sorry. I should have saved that.
No, I'm gonna cry. Next question. Me too. I love you, Josiah, and I love you, Alistair, Miyoki, Scow, and us. So now I'm going to cry. I miss him so much.
Well, here's one from Eagle Feather News, John Lajamodier. Ever make yourself laugh till you cried writing these? Ever make yourself cry writing these? Oh, just a minute. Have you ever made yourself laugh till you cried writing these?
Oh, not only do I cry laughing, but other things happen when you're an old woman. And we won't go into that.
Lloyd Isaac wants to know, how has your residential school experience and the work of the TRC influenced your thinking?
Don't let the bastards get you. How's that for an answer?
It's an answer. And I think John would understand that answer. So next we have your good friend, June Arneson. Oh, I think McNally's is getting real heated. They want us out of here. We'll just let the announcement finish.
Restaurant will reopen at 10 a.m. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So June wants to know, when is your next book coming out, and have you already started writing it? Thank you for sharing your birthday with us. Love, June.
I'm always writing. Yes, I have started writing and collecting already. I have no idea when it's going to be done. I'm not a fast writer, and I don't care to be a fast writer. To me, it's more important that I'm a good writer than to produce as quickly as I can. Thank you for asking. Hi, June. Love you.
I have a question here from James. He's asking, in a book you gave me, the author says there's no such thing as writing. Actually, you wrote once, a rewrite 1,000 times. Is this true for you?
What was that question again?
It's a little hard to read, sorry. Actually, you write once and then rewrite 1,000 times. Is that true for you?
Yes, it is true for me. There's a lot of editing that goes on. I may do a lot of word changes in one sentence. It is very true for me to edit and re-edit, and to go to people that I trust who have a different vision than I do. So yeah, that's really important. Thank you.
That's all the questions I have. And so thank you, Louise, for your honesty, your humor, and I'm so glad nothing embarrasses you, because that is so real, and that's what we love about you. So now I will turn it over to Rachel, and let Rachel, please let them know we're leaving. So, okay, thank you.
Well, I think you've got the official bookstore experience. So thanks for your patience as we made our closing announcements. The only people that have to leave right now are the customers. You guys are welcome to stay. Huge thanks again to Louise Halfe for being with us tonight, and to our wonderful host, Candace Wasacase-Lafferty, as well as to Ronald Marken and Peter Stoicheff for his opening remarks. And Maria Campbell, although she couldn't be here with us tonight, we're just pleased that Candace was able to share some words on her behalf. I'd also like to give a shout out to Brenda at Brick Books and Patricia at Kegedonce Press for working with us tonight. Don't forget to pick up a copy of both books. Blue Marrow through Kegedonce Press is available online or in store. You can also purchase a copy of Awâsis, Kinky and Dishevelled, the brand new book. And Burning in This Midnight Dream will also be re-released on May 1st through Brick Books. So we're very excited for that. And we are just so thankful to Louise for being with us tonight, and on her birthday, no less. So thanks again, everyone, for coming. And on behalf of McNally Robinson, have a wonderful evening.
Thanks, Louise.
Happy birthday, Louise.
Happy birthday, kid.